Hello, welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Britta Blodgett with the Colorado Workforce Development Council. Today we're excited to share a preview of the yet-to-be-released 2019 Talent Pipeline Report, as well as some information about a hot topic, which is the future of work. So I'd like to welcome Jean Dougherty, who is shared between the Colorado Workforce Development Council and the Department of Higher Ed, to the first half of this show. Welcome, Jean.
Hello.
How are you?
I've been doing well. How about you?
Doing well, thank you. So Talent Pipeline Report, it's going to be released next week on Tuesday, December 10th, and will be available on the CWDC's website, coworkforcecouncil.org. Can you tell us, before we dive into the details of the report, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your shared role between the CWDC and the Department of Higher Education?
Yeah, of course. As you mentioned, I'm the Talent Pipeline Analyst and shared between the Department of Higher Education and the Colorado Workforce Development Council. I act as one liaison between higher education and workforce. I also work as a part of the data research and policy team at CDHE. So I kind of get in on all the data of workforce and education. And a major part of my position is writing the Talent Pipeline Report, which is why I'm here today.
Great. Thank you for joining us. So, what are the questions that this report is looking to answer?
The report is looking to answer questions related to workforce supply and demand, and then go on to identify viable strategies and recommendations to kind of balance those two.
And so this report is the sixth year that this report has happened. And it is something that the state legislature has required every year.
Yep.
So when you're writing this report, who are the audiences for the report?
The report is typically geared towards policymakers to give a database foundation to policy regarding talent development moving forward. However, both public and private organizations and industries might be interested in the information provided. Because of the strategies outlined to better supply the talent pipeline with qualified workers, and it also calls out programs and opportunities that people can take advantage of to help fill their talent pipeline.
So the report examines the demand for talent, the supply of talent, and then makes some recommendations. Can you tell us a bit about this year's demand section?
So for the demand, we identify top jobs, the required education and training for the top jobs, in-demand cross-industry skills, implications for technological development and displacement, and then also the skills necessary to thrive in an evolving workforce. So kind of seeing how all of those factors interplay with the demand side of the workforce.
And can you define what do we mean by top job?
So top jobs cross a variety of industries, and they fit into a couple of parameters. The top job must have over 40 annual net openings. The top job also must have an above average growth over 10 years, which is about 20.5% growth over 10 years. And then it also has a good wage. And this is where top jobs are broken down into the two different tiers. Tier 1 is a median hourly earning of $25.06 for 2 adults, one that's working, and 1 child. And then tier 2 is a median hourly earning of $13.19, and that's just for an individual.
And so what among those top jobs, are there some fastest growing occupations?
There are some fastest growing occupations. The healthcare support and healthcare field is growing really fast. Also, a lot of IT or computer jobs are growing really fast as well.
And are there skills that are specific to those different occupations, and as well as skills that cut across?
Mostly we've been looking at a lot of skills that cut across industries, and those skills are essential skills or soft skills. They're basically the interpersonal communications that help you do your job. So that's like communication, management, customer service, sales, things like that.
Great. In the second section of the report, you talk about supply And can you highlight what some of the key aspects of our talent pipeline supply in Colorado are?
Yeah. So in the supply section, we look at labor force participation, unemployment, post-secondary credential attainment, and population shifts and projections for various demographic groups in the state. And overall, we're doing pretty well in those categories. Our labor force participation is higher than the national average at 69.2%, and our unemployment rate is low at 3.3%. However, when you break down those numbers by demographic groups, you see vast disparities that need to be addressed. For example, the Black or African American unemployment rate is at 6.6%, which is double Colorado's overall unemployment rate. And to put that into perspective, if the overall unemployment rate for Colorado was at 6.6%, we'd be in a deep recession. Additionally, our state's population growth is slowing, the workforce is aging, and as a result, the future workforce is going to be younger and more diverse. So it kind of calls for multiple strategies that serve more than one population because one solution doesn't work for every circumstance. So we kind of have to hit it from multiple angles.
And what are the different ages that are most common in our workforce, or what is the breakdown of ages?
25 to 54.
25 to 54.
25 to 54 is where we have our highest labor force participation rate and lowest unemployment rates. And that's just because it's the main age that people are participating in the workforce.
And do we see, in terms of looking toward the future, are there patterns of increase or decrease in younger populations, older populations? What are we seeing as we look forward?
So right now we're seeing the middle of the baby boomer and Gen X are in the process of retiring. So the workforce is getting older because people are working longer, but also there's going to be, they call it the gray tsunami or the silver tsunami. And that's when all of those people are going to be retiring. And because our population growth is slowing and the net migration within the state is slowing, our workforce isn't going to be as big, but it's going to be diverse and it's going to be a lot younger.
Great. The report concludes with policy recommendations. Can you talk a little bit about this year's recommendations and what we're hoping to achieve with those recommendations?
Of course. The first priority is to enhance access to opportunities for quality lifelong education connected to the future of work. This can be done by enhancing access to early childhood and post-secondary education. Also by developing new mechanisms for upskilling and reskilling workers who are in occupations that are at high risk for automation, and also supporting populations that are overrepresented in those occupations. The second priority is to foster an economy that works for everyone. I know that sounds very broad, but this can be done by recognizing work experience and skills with academic credit, also by reducing barriers to occupational licensure.
So sorry, I just want to go back. So for recognizing credit for work, that would be if you have work experience, you're gaining credit at an academic institution?
Yep.
Okay.
And then reducing barriers to occupational licensure too. So allowing kind of interstate migration by reducing some of the red tape surrounded by the licensure.
So if I live in Kansas and I am a nurse, I could take that to Colorado and wouldn't need a separate license. Is that?
Kind of, because nursing is usually recognized across state lines. It'd be like a barber or a massage therapist. I know that Arizona is having universal recognition of occupational licensure, and it's causing a lot of excitement around that.
Okay. So for a variety of different professions,
yes,
that would be able to be carried from state to state.
Yep.
And so the hope is that with the people who are still coming to Colorado, they would have an easier time connecting with employment.
Yep. And then it's just one less hoop to jump through to be able to get a job.
and expands the talent pool for employers.
Yes.
Great. So, sorry, I interrupted you in talking about recommendations. So we were in the middle of the second one, I think.
Yeah. So after reducing barriers to occupational licensure, also creating opportunities for employers to support high-cost services like housing, and then also encouraging employers to use clear behavioral definitions of skills required for different positions. So then it kind of clears up the language surrounding what you are and you aren't qualified for. So then people stop self-selecting out for positions that they could be qualified for.
And so where are those definitions?
Usually in job postings or position descriptions, and those are usually dictated and defined by the organizations. So they need to go through and see what are the essential functions of the job and what are the skills needed to succeed in those functions of the job. And the last recommendation is to focus resources on enhancing and scaling strategies that have already demonstrated results and effectiveness. This can be done by renewing programs like the Innovative Industries Internship Program, the Employment First Advisory Partnership, and the Work Act, and also by enhancing and promoting opportunities for concurrent enrollment and industry recognized credentials.
So this is building on work from previous reports and other talent development initiatives. I know a number of pieces of legislation have been passed based off of previous talent pipeline reports. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And we figured it's probably best just to keep building on what's being successful to make it stronger and kind of fill in any gaps rather than start from scratch and reinvent the wheel.
Great. And so we talked a little bit about who this report is for, the main audiences. Who is involved in putting the report together?
There were a lot of players that helped with the development of the report to ensure its quality, whether it be with feedback or providing data. The Colorado Department of Higher Education, CWDC, the Department of Education, the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, and the State Demographer's Office. And the feedback and data provided by these groups were extremely valuable, and it made the report that much stronger.
Did you have anything as you were going through the process of writing the report and compiling all of this information that was especially surprising to you?
I think just that all that information is out there and people just need to know where to find it. And that just kind of was mind-blowing to me because before this, I didn't know. I mean, I did know, but it's just amazing to have access to all that knowledge, and a lot of people don't know it's out there.
And so where did the bulk of the data for the report come from?
A lot of information came from the Department of Labor and Employment. The Labor Market Information Office at CDLE was great in providing me a lot of that information. Also, CDE and CDHE provided me a lot of information with the credential attainment.
And so where can people go to learn more about this report?
You can go to coworkforcecouncil.org.
Great. Do you have other surprises or parts of the report that you thought were especially interesting?
I think what was really interesting is the section where we got into reducing barriers and elevating resources, because I think when a lot of people look at workforce, they just like to look at labor force participation and wages, when really it kind of seeps out to every facet of your life. So you need behavioral health resources, you need childcare for you to go to school. So it was interesting to look at all of that and how there was kind of a scope creep when you're looking at things.
None of these things happen in a silo. They're interconnected.
Yep.
And in order to be successful in one aspect, you might need supports in another.
Yeah.
Do you have I have some key statistics here. I don't know if you can speak to any of these at all. So 64% of the tier 1 or tier 2 top jobs require a credential beyond high school. What does that mean exactly?
So it means that any credential, your associates, bachelor's, or beyond are required for those jobs. And right now, 56.9% of Coloradans have a post-secondary credential past high school. So it shows a gap between what we need and what we have. And it's important that we start to elevate people in the credential attainment arena.
To help them connect to meaningful careers as well as providing the labor force, the talent.
To provide them with quality careers and quality and successful lives.
We also have that there are 384,015 annual job openings in occupations across the state. We talked a little bit about some of the top occupations, but in terms of industries, are there certain industries that the bulk of those jobs are falling into?
Yeah, healthcare a lot. There's a lot of people in the healthcare supports or registered nurses that are either retiring from the industry or transferring industries, and there's a lot of job openings there, especially with growth too, because of our aging population. So more people are needed for the personal care services as well.
So it seems as though there have been some shifts in demand for talent, potentially in relation to technology, skills, and employees. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, the way that work is being done is evolving and changing as it has throughout history. And because of that, it's causing occupations to shift in job tasks. And technology is allowing workers to be more productive and efficient, and the workforce has to adapt to a mindset of lifelong learning in order to adapt to learn those skills to operate the technology. So it's not we're just going to school one time, we're going to be working in this job the rest of our lives. People just need to be nimble and agile to be able to shift to function in the jobs with the new technology that's coming out just rapidly.
So really embracing lifelong learning.
Yeah.
Just because you have a credential or a degree doesn't mean that you're done forever. That's a process you will need to continue throughout your life.
Yes.
And are the skills that are in demand shifting as well?
Yes. Previously in history, manual, repetitive tasks have been very common, but now tasks, because of the technological advances, require more cognitive functioning and a lot more interpersonal skills. So it's a lot more higher thinking and complex problem solving rather than repetitive work. So that's why it's important for people to get training beyond high school, because it allows the development of those skills.
And then are employees looking for different things from employers, or do they have different expectations?
Yes. Globally, workers typically favor flexible and more remote working opportunities, and this is different from previous jobs just because the way the work is being done allows for remote and flexible working hours. Alongside flexible work hours, professional development, learning, and opportunities to advance are ranked as highly valuable for workers in the workforce right now, especially in the younger workforce, kind of the millennial generation. It's showing that workers are interested in diverse opportunities and that lifelong learning and upskilling is expected from an organization, and now organizations should expect it from their employees.
So both from the employee and from the employer.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Jean. The report comes out next Tuesday, December 10th. We will be excited to share it.
Me too.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Thank you, Jean, for joining us again, and welcome, Katherine.
Thank you.
So I think we'd like to start off. Katherine, can you share a little bit about yourself and your role with the Department of Labor and Employment?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I've been on board for about 3 months with the Department of Labor and Employment, and I am the director for a newly established office called the Office of the Future of Work. So Governor Polis established this office in September of this year, and I am an office of one right now, but it doesn't really feel like that because I'm working across all state agencies to understand how we can prepare for the future of work and what the future of work means for Colorado's communities.
So I think the future of work is a very hot topic and it's an important one, but can you define or explain how you are defining future of work? Because I think a lot of people talk about it, but it doesn't, there's not always the same definition.
For sure, and I think in some ways the future of work is a bit of a misnomer because these forces have been acting on the workplace and the way we work for a long time. But when we talk about the future of work, the main things we're thinking about are the globalization of the workforce and the economy and our supply chains and how they continue to extend, and that people are working for companies across state lines, across country lines, and a product can begin in one area and be finished in another area and exported, and there's all these opportunities with that. So that's sort of one force that's been acting for a while. The other one, which I think is more often talked about with the future of work, is the technological transformation. And so that includes automation, it includes artificial intelligence, it includes just the digitalization of different tasks. And so as we think about the future of work, we're looking at the impact of those forces on the way we work, how we, as an employer, how we hire and how we get our job done, then as a community, how we're responding to those. I think, too, in Colorado, when we think about the future of work, we're also just talking about the evolution of our communities. As Jean talked about, we have these changes in our population. We have these different market forces that are changing the industries that are thriving in Colorado. And so the Office of the Future of Work and the effort that we're leading will be focusing on how to make resilient communities so that they can transition effectively.
Is there anything else about the specific approach for planning around the future of work?
Yeah, so the executive order that Governor Polis signed really talks about raising awareness about what the future of work means, and then identifying policy and program solutions to make sure that we're prepared. So those are kind of the two overall activities that I see the office leading. In terms of raising awareness, it's making sure that across the state, everyone is aware of how the future of work and the changing nature of work impacts them and what they can do, what skills they need to learn, and what jobs will help them succeed in the future of work. And then for identifying policies and program solutions, I really think about, first of all, elevating the great things that are already happening. And I love that the Talent Pipeline reports policy recommendations build on itself each year, because there are really amazing things happening. And that in the first 3 months, I've had the pleasure of learning about a lot of the efforts across the state and across state agencies that are really putting Colorado ahead in a lot of ways. And so the first thing is just identifying those and aligning those. And then, of course, gaps exist, and figuring out what policies or programs can help fill those gaps.
That is one of the things that I enjoy about working in Colorado, is getting to learn about the different communities across the state and the exciting things that they have going on.
Totally. I was in Pueblo this morning, and they're bringing together community members. They received a grant from the Workforce Development Council to get trained in strategic doing. The Workforce Center did, and so they're bringing together political officials from the community, service providers, community members, to really think about this. And this was before this office existed, and I think it just goes to show that no one is sitting here not thinking about what the future means for them. And so one of the big roles of the office is just to understand what is happening and harness those promising practices so that other communities can benefit from them.
And do you have other specific areas of exploration that the office is looking into?
Yeah, so we have 3 main areas that we're going to be looking into in this first year. And I should say, too, my main deliverable for the Office of the Future of Work is to create a roadmap that will be delivered to the governor's office that will include these policy and program recommendations. And so the areas of exploration that we're focusing on, first of all, is modernizing worker protections and benefits. So as work has changed and evolved, as people will continue to switch jobs more often in their careers, or even work many different types of flexible jobs, our benefits systems haven't evolved in the same as fast as our workplace has evolved. So really looking at what a portable benefit system could look like in Colorado is one of the big tasks. And I think alongside that, it's building off the work that's already been done around understanding the on-demand economy, or the gig workers, and why people are in those professions and how to better support and create benefits for those individuals. The second side of that, modernizing worker protections and benefits, that I'm really excited to explore this year is around those jobs that require a lot of those essential skills, those uniquely human skills that are critical for our community's health, but are not at risk of automation and are also not really good jobs right now. So you think of our early childhood educators, our home healthcare workers, and as our population evolves in Colorado as it ages, we're going to need to make sure people have access to the education and the healthcare that allows them to stay in their community and in their homes when they can. And so in the future of work, we need to understand how to make those jobs better and what communities can do to ensure that people have access to those resources. That's one area. The second area is around really taking a sort of target population approach, because we really want a people-focused lens as we do this work. And so again, kind of highlighting some of the amazing stuff already happening in Colorado, a lot of our target populations have efforts underway already. And so the 5 populations we'll be focusing on are, one is mature workers. As Jean said, our population is aging and many are staying in the workforce longer, and or they're caring for their parents as they age as well. And so when we think about jobs that are available to mature workers, we want to make sure those are good jobs and that employers are valuing the skills that they have. So there's efforts underway already with whether it's boomers leading change or changing the narrative, or some of the AARP Back to Work 50 Plus programs. We want to think about what the scaling those programs could look like. The second population is people with disabilities. We have a new Office of Employment First that is a joint effort with the Governor's Office and the Division of Vocational Rehab and CSU. And that person, Patricia Henke, is really focused on these same types of issues around the future for people with disabilities and integrating them into the workforce. The third is New Americans. We had our senior advisor on New Americans integration start yesterday, and so thinking about, especially with occupational licensing for immigrants and refugees, how do we create more opportunity and remove barriers for immigrants and refugees that are here in Colorado. Fourth is mid-career professionals, and so that's the most loosely defined, and I think the one
I was going to say, can you clarify that a little further?
I think that's what I'm really interested in exploring, and what I think the office can really take ownership of, because there isn't an effort around this. So it's pretty much anyone that's in a career right now that could be affected by automation, which is almost everyone, or whose industry might be displaced, or someone that is going to work longer than they expected or return to the workforce. And so how are we reaching them with the information about the types of jobs that are opening up and how their skills could apply? And I think that it's also an opportunity for us to look at underemployed workers that are in the middle of their career and how to connect them to better career pathways. The last population is justice involved, or the reentry population. So how do we make sure that people re-entering the workforce after incarceration have the resources they need to succeed, and that employers, again, recognize the experience that many of them, the work experience many of them have during their time that they served and before, the skills they learned, credentials they got, and how they can enter more seamlessly into our workforce afterwards. So as we do all this work, we'll be really thinking about the journey of those individuals throughout the workforce system and in our different communities to help tell the story for the future of work. And the third area of exploration is taking the idea of a digital transformation plan, which is that term is most often used for employers to think about their technological investment. And so we want to sort of expand the definition of digital transformation so that every individual in Colorado understands and has a plan for themselves in the future of work. How are they going to continue to upskill? What resources do they need to do that? And how does their career fare in the face of these changing, these forces that are changing the way we work? Employers, we want to make sure that they also have resources to think not just about the technological transformation, but also the cultural and talent transformation that is a real opportunity for them. And then third, at the community level, how are communities coming up, similar to, like a disaster preparedness plan, how are they coming up with a digital transformation plan? And we see some of our communities already facing that with coal-based economies that are transitioning to new opportunities. We see them struggling with how to diversify the economy and help people stay in the community and bring people to the community, and what are the opportunities there. So those are sort of the three levels that we're thinking about, and I think as we go around the state, we'll be doing regional convenings to sort of share what we know about what the future of work means for these different communities. And we'll get feedback from the community members about what they're hearing and what they feel in those communities. And we'll work with them to build a plan. And all of that will lead into this statewide summit early next year around the future of work in Colorado.
And who do you anticipate will be participating in that summit?
Everyone, no. But I do think
Katherine's throwing a very big party.
Yeah, everyone's invited. So as we do this work, one of the big things that is important to me, and it's important to CDLE and to Governor Polis, is making sure that everyone is at the table. We have to have industry, small, medium, large employers, entrepreneurs that are here talking about that, what they need, the demand side. We also need educators and other state agencies from early childhood, K-12, post-secondary to be at the table. We need community members, local elected officials. It has to be something that the community is bought into and is seeing as a solution that they're part of and that they're contributing to, because it can't be a state-led decision. Part of that is, Colorado's communities are very different. We have 64 counties. We have 271 municipalities. They have different needs and different assets, and we need to empower them and provide resources to help them take on the challenge and use their assets to create good solutions that work for them.
Wonderful.
I didn't list everyone too, but it's a lot more than just employers and state agencies, but really just every person that has a stake in that community, and we want to bring them to the table and make sure they have a voice.
No, that makes sense that they need to be active and representing themselves and their interests and help contribute to the community.
Yeah.
Jean, I know in this year's Talent Pipeline report, you did touch on this topic of the future of work. Can you explain a little bit about how the report goes into that?
Well, actually, we had Katherine help out with that, and she wrote in there kind of the different milestones that the Office of the Future of Work is trying to achieve. Also, it kind of sets it up because the future of work impacts the entire system. As Katherine said before, there's K through 12, early childhood education and post-secondary education, but also workforce implications for the future of work. And because it is evolving, it's important to lay that out so people know how to be proactive as opposed to reactive towards the future of work. Also, it helps employers and education and training providers to be proactive and step in and provide those learning opportunities for the workforce. So it just kind of educates everybody a little bit more.
That's great. Katherine, you mentioned a roadmap. Are there other tangible goals like that you're working toward, or kind of broader statewide goals you're working toward as well?
Yeah, so these regional convenings I think are going to be a big milestone for us. So we're working in partnership with local workforce boards to bring together all of these different stakeholders, and we're also working across state agencies from the Office of Economic Development and International Trade to higher ed to education to, I could list all the acronyms, but working across those to think about who has a presence in each of these communities and who can we bring to the table. So I think those regional convenings leading up to a statewide summit are some pretty big milestones. We will be establishing a couple of working groups to start the research on what that portable benefit system could look like, to think about those low wage but high value jobs. And they'll also just be online resources. So we do have sort of a placeholder website up on CDLE's website right now, but we'll be building that out to make sure that we're, as part of this raising awareness, we have a newsletter and online a way for people to engage with the office and provide feedback, and also for us to share out information that we're hearing nationwide about the future of work. I'm also excited because, again, there's so much work already underway, but there's some really great resources and data that we can use to build sort of a future of work dashboard that will allow us hopefully to be able to have a literal map of Colorado and the different counties. And as we think about what are the indicators for that community's resilience, we can measure that and have that visual representation to help legislators, to help service providers understand what are the challenges and what are potential solutions based on the characteristics of that community.
So it's specific to the community. It's not just a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And I think that's really critical, and that's something that's been really evident to me even in these first 3 months, is that each community is so different, and they have and we need to respect that and make sure that the solutions we come up with are sort of a menu, and the resources we come up with are there to empower and not to mandate or tell people how to solve their community's problems.
Yeah. Are there other partners that are key to this future of work endeavor beyond some of the state agencies that you've mentioned and employers?
Yeah, so we've had the benefit, and I think Colorado has the benefit of having really great research groups and consulting groups that have a presence here. So as part of the initial few months of work, we've been talking really closely with the Brookings Institution, with the Aspen Institute, McKinsey Global Institute, with Skillful and Markle, with Deloitte and KPMG to really understand what their stance on the future of work is and what is the information they have about Colorado that we can leverage to inform our approach. So I've been really excited by that. We also have amazing institutions of higher education and nonprofit service providers, advocacy groups that have all been at the table already to help share what they see as some of those big challenges to inform this approach. So.
And are there other states to look to as examples of how they are addressing this question?
Yeah, that's as you said, it's a buzzy topic right now. So I've been joking that I'm forming a support group with all other future of work state people, but Indiana has their governor's workforce cabinet that sort of formed out of this future of work focus, and they have sort of a subcommittee now that's focused on future of work. Washington was also sort of one of the leaders in starting these conversations. And so they have a lot of resources and have really focused on work-based learning through their Career Connect initiative. And then most recently, and sort of in line with us, we have California that has their Future of Work Commission, as well as New Jersey that has a Future of Work Commission. So it's been interesting talking with those different conveners because they started with this task force that's bringing together both state and national leaders to talk about the future of work in California and New Jersey respectively. And so we're taking a bit of a different approach by having this office first to then have more of a targeted approach to address these issues. So I've been in conversations with them to think about, pros and cons of each approach, and to also, because a lot of the resources are public, it's been really helpful because they've compiled a lot of amazing sources that'll inform our work as well.
That's wonderful. Always good to be able to learn from others and not have to recreate the wheel. So how can people get involved in this endeavor?
Yeah. So like I said, we have a placeholder website that has my contact information. So I encourage anyone that has ideas, concerns, or wants to learn more about the approach that we're taking this year to reach out to me directly. That website is colorado.gov/CDLE/future of work. And as I said, we'll be developing sort of a contact form so that people that are interested in being updated about the Future of Work office and the efforts underway will be able to sign up for that. So I think that's one of the big ways. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm trying to share out a lot of Future of Work oriented resources and some Colorado-based promising practices. So that'll be another place where we'll be sharing out some stuff as well.
Wonderful. And when will, in terms of the regional forum and the summit next spring, do we have a timeline of when that people might be able to know about those?
Yeah, so the regional convenings will be taking place from January through April. And so we're working again through our workforce boards to have them help be our convener for those. And so if you're interested, you can of course reach out to me directly to see when one is happening in your community, and we'll have those live as we start to plan those. And then the statewide summit will be in May of this next year.
Great. So I wanted to actually kind of jump back to the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah.
You said you felt like Future of Work was a little bit of a misnomer, maybe. What would you call it?
The changing nature of work.
Changing
It's not as
nature of work?
it's
Sure.
not as snappy.
Evolution of work?
Yeah, I do. I think it is about these forces, and it is something that we've gone through before, as Jean mentioned in the previous section. But these are challenges that we have to face, and they'll continue. Our population, technology, and everything will continue to change. And so it's thinking about what's happened already, how do we manage our expectations, and provide good services to people so that they can be prepared as these changes continue in the future. So I think when we say future of work, it's like, oh, it's coming, and as if you've been to any workforce development conferences or any future of work conversations, everyone knows it's already happening and it's already impacted work.
Absolutely. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to make sure to share with us about this or about the work that you all are doing?
No, I've been being new to the state government. It's been really exciting to dive in, and everyone has been really excited to participate and to support the work. And so, as I said, though I'm an office of one, we want everyone to be part of this. And so I encourage people to reach out to me to get involved if this is something that they're passionate about or that they have an opinion about, because we will only build a good solution for all of these issues if we're doing it together.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Jean, any other last thoughts?
Just to fill out your census when you get it, because we get a lot of our information, a lot of our data from that, and the more we know, the better we can be.
That's a great plug too. And I was just thinking, I talked to some people from the census because they're one of the oldest and sort of best gig employers, and they've been doing it because they hire
that makes sense
600,000 people every 10 years to do this work, and they're a little bit different because they actually get like a W-2 and they're federal employees for that time. But it's an interesting example because it's in our Constitution. They've been doing the census for a very long time, but it's by nature these short-term contracts. So even gig work isn't completely new.
Yeah.
That is true. Great. Well, thank you both for joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing the continuing conversation about the evolution of work, and look forward to the Talent Pipeline report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.